Hey YouTube, this is Agent Rep, and with me once again is
Journeyman Smith. Welcome back to Dragon Age of Veilguard. Remember, this game is rated M for maturity, so some scenes may not be appropriate for younger children.
Alright, so here we go.
So, if I remember correctly, we just came to the lighthouse.
Yep. So we will open that chest, but not this time. What we are going to do this time is we have a lot of Codex entries to read. So we're going to start with the Shadow Dragons.
On to Winter Templars. When one mentions the Templar Order, you no doubt picture the armored members of the Southern Chantry. These Templars are trained to combat uncontrolled magic, blood magic, and abominations.
Abominations.
Abominations, I knew that, with the goal of protecting people, including mages themselves, from the most violent manifestations of magical power. However, they also embody the Southern Chantry's control over mages and enforce many of its strict rules and regulations over magic in general. In addition to combat training, these Templars ingest lyrium. This mineral, usually used by mages for enchantments and rituals, grants Templars the ability to resist and dispel magic. The fact that it is also addictive, chaining them to the chantry and resulting in paranoia, obsession, and ultimately dementia, is often swept under the rug. Yes, you've heard all about that dirty little secret. As you may have surmised by my use of Southern chantry, this is not the case in the Tevinter Imperium.
Into Winter, we know that magic can only serve if it is allowed to flourish. We do not suppress talent, we nurture it. That is not to say that we ignore the dangers of magic and what it might allow those with violent intent if not combated. As in the South, our Templars are trained to prevent the excess of blood magic and to subdue demons as well as those inflicted by possession. But our Templars do not take lyrium. They do not enforce unnecessary regulations. They are not given power over mages, but follow the lead of our most esteemed magisterium. They serve the chantry and the people of the Imperium. I must admit, I rather prefer our way of doing things.
From a letter written by Leticia Paulus, living in a border town in the Tevinter Imperium, to a cousin in Oralis, 915 Dragon.
All right, now the world of Thedas.
All right. The Anderfels. The Anderfels are a land of shocking extremes. It is the most desolate place in all the world, for two blights have left great expanses of the steppes so completely devoid of life that corpses can't even decay there. No insect or grub will ever reach them. It is a land filled with wonders, like the Murdain, with its gigantic white statue of Our Lady carved into its face, her hands outstretched and bearing an eternal flame, or Weissop Fortress, with its walls of living rock, towering over the desolate plains below.
The Anders, too, are people of extremes, the most devout priests and the most deadly soldiers, the poorest nation in the world and the most feared.
From In Pursuit of Knowledge, The Travels of a Chantry Scholar by Brother Genitivi.
Andraste, the bride of the Maker. There was once a tiny fishing village on the waking sea that was set upon by the Tevinter Imperium, which enslaved the villagers to be sold in the markets of Manrathus, leaving only the old and infirmed. One of the captains was the child of Andraste. was the child Andraste. She was raised in slavery in a foreign land. She escaped, then made the long and treacherous journey back to her homeland alone. She rose from nothing to be the wife of a
Alamari.
Amari warlord. Each day she sang to the gods, asking them to help her people, who remained slaves into winter. The false gods of the mountains and the winds did not answer her, but the true God did. The Maker spoke, and he showed her all the works of his hand, the Fade, the world, and all the creatures within. He showed her how men had forgotten him, lavishing devotion upon mute idols and demons, and how he had left them to their fate. But her voice had reached him, and so captivated him that he offered her a place at his side, that she may rule over all creation. But Andraste would not forsake her people. She begged the Maker to return to save his children from the cruelty of the Imperium. Reluctantly, the Maker agreed to give man another chance. Andraste went back to her husband,
Mephiroth.
Mithrath, and told him all that the Maker had revealed to her. Together they rallied the
Alamari.
Alamari and marched forth against the mage lords of the Imperium, and the Maker was with them. The Maker's sword was creation itself, fire and flood, famine and earthquake. Everywhere they went, Andraste sang to the people of the Maker, and they heard her. The ranks of Andraste's followers grew until they were a vast tide washing over the Imperium. And when
Mephiroth.
Mithrath saw that the people loved Andraste and not him, a worm grew within his heart, gnawing on it. At last the armies of Andraste and Mithrath stood before the very gates of Mimrathus, but Andraste was not with them, for Mithrath
Mephiroth.
Mithrath had schemed in secret to hand Andraste over to the Tevinter. For this the Archon would give
Mephiroth.
Mithrath all the lands to the south of the Waking Sea. And so before all the armies of the Alamari and of Tevinter, Andraste was tied to a stake and burned, while her earthly husband turned his armies aside and did nothing, for his heart had been devoured. But as he watched the pyre, the Archon softened. He took pity on Andraste and drew his sword and granted her the mercy of a quick death. The Maker wept for his beloved and cursed
Mephiroth.
Mayfroth, cursed mankind for their betrayal, and turned once again from creation, taking only Andraste with him. And Our Lady sits still at his side, where she still urges him to take pity on his children. From the
Sermons.
from the sermons of Justinia II.
Antiva. In the rest of the civilized world, it is common belief that Antiva has no king.
Antiva.
I assure you, gentle readers, that this is untrue. The line of kings in Antiva has remained unbroken for 2,500 years. It is simply that nobody pays any attention to them whatsoever. In truth, the nation is ruled by a collection of merchant princes. They are not princes in the literal sense, but heads of banks, trading companies, and vineyards. Their power is conferred strictly by wealth. But Antiva is not primarily renowned for its peculiar form of government, nor for its admittedly unparalleled wines. Antiva is known for the House of Crows. Since Antivans are well known for being good at everything but fighting, it is more than a little ironic that Antiva possesses the most deadly assassins in the world. Their fame is such that Antiva keeps no standing army, no king, is willing to order his troops to assault her borders, and no general is mad enough to lead such an invasion. The attack would likely succeed, but its leaders would not see the day. From In Pursuit of Knowledge, The Travels of a Chantry Scholar by Brother Genitivi.
Arathan. Part 1. Before the ages were named or numbered, our people were glorious and eternal and never changing. Like the great oak tree, they were constant in their traditions, strong in their roots, and ever reaching for the sky. They felt no need to rush when life was endless. They worshipped their gods for months at a time. Decisions came after decades of debate, and an introduction could last for years. From time to time, and our ancestors would drift from into century-long slumber, but this was not death, for we know they wandered the fade in dreams. In those ages, our people called all the land
Elfhennen.
Alvenin, which in the old language means place of the people, and at the center of the world stood the great city of Arlathan, a place of knowledge and debate, where the best of the ancient elves would go to trade knowledge and greet old friends, and settle disputes that had gone on for millennia. But while our ancestors were caught in the forever cycle of the ages, drifting through life at what today we would consider an intolerable pace, the world outside changed. The world outside,
The
the lush
lush
forests and ancient trees were changing. The first humans arrived from Parlavan to the north, called Shemlins, or Quicklings, by the ancients. The humans were pitiful creatures whose lives blinked by an instant. When they first met the elves, the humans were brash and warlike, and quick to anger and quicker to fight, with no patience for the unhurried pace of elven democracy.
diplomacy.
Diplomacy. Ah, there we go. Sorry, a little hard to read. There's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But with but the humans brought worse things than war with them. Our ancestors proved susceptible to human diseases, and for the first time in history, elves died of natural causes. What's more is those elves who spent time bartering and negotiating with humans found themselves aging, tainted by the humans' brash and impatient lives. Many believe that the ancient gods had judged them unworthy of long lives and cast them down among the quicklings. Our ancestors came to look upon the humans as parasites, which I understand is similar to the way humans see our people in the cities. The ancient elves moved
Immediately.
immediately moved to close Alven
Elvennen.
Alvenin off from the humans, for fear that this quickening would crumble the civilization. From the fall of Arlafan, as told by
Gisharel.
keeper of the
Relafaren.
clan of the Dalish elves. Okay, we will go back and read all those, but I think we want to read Arlathan Part 2 next.
Yes. You ask Arlathan Part 2. You ask what happened to Arlathan? Sadly, we do not know. Even those of us who keep the ancient lore have no record of what truly happened. What we have are accounts of the days before the fall, and a fable of the whims of the gods. The human world was changing even as the elves slept. Clans and tribes gave way to a powerful empire called Tevinter, which and for what reason we do not know, moved to conquer Elvenan. When they breached the great city of Arlathan, our people, fearful of disease and loss of immortality, chose to flee rather than fight, with magic, demons, and even dragons at their behest. The Tevinter Imperium marched easily through Arlathan, destroying homes and galleries and amphitheaters that had stood for ages. Our people were corralled as slaves, and human contact quickened their veins until every captured elf turned mortal. The elves called to their ancient gods, but there was no answer. As to why the gods didn't answer, our people left only a legend. They say that Fen-Harel, the Dread Wolf and Lord of Tricksters, approached the ancient gods of good and evil and proposed a truce. The gods of good would remove themselves to heaven, and the lords of evil would exile themselves to the abyss. Neither group ever again to enter the other's lands, but the gods did not know that Fen-Harel had planned to betray them, and by the time they realized the Dread Wolf's treachery, they were sealed in their respective realms, never again to interact with the mortal world. It is a fable, to be sure, but those elves who travel the beyond claim that Fen-Farel still roams the world of dreams, keeping watch over the gods, lest they escape from their prisons. Whatever the case, Arlathan had fallen to the very humans our people had once considered mere pests. It is said that the Tevinter Magisters used their great destructive power to force the very ground to swallow Arlathan whole, destroying eons of collected knowledge, culture, and art. The whole of elven lore left only to memory. From the fall of Arlathan, as told by Gisharel, keeper of the Ralefaran clan of the Dalish elves.
Beyond the Fade, spirits and demons, it is challenging enough for the casual observer to tell the difference between the Fade and the creatures that live within, let alone between one type of spirit and another. In truth, there is very little that distinguishes them, even for the most astute mage, since spirits are not physical entities and are therefore not restricted to recognizable forms, or even having a form at all, one cannot tell for certain what is alive and what is merely part of the scenery. It is therefore advisable for the unexperienced researcher to greet all objects he encounters. Technically, we mis-
Typically.
Typically, we misuse the term spirit to refer to only the benign or at least less malevolent creatures of the Fade. But in truth, all denizens of the realm beyond the Fade are spirits. As the chant of light notes, everything within the Fade is a mimicry of our world, a poor imitation for the spirits who do not remotely understand what they are copying. It is no surprise that much of the Fade appears like a manuscript, translated from Tevinter into Orlesian and back again by drunken initiates. In general, spirits are not complex, or rather, they are not complex as we understand such things. Each one seizes upon a single facet of human experience: rage, hunger, compassion, hope, etc. This is one idea. This one idea becomes their identity. We have classified as demons those spirits who identify themselves with darker human emotions and ideas. The most common and weakest form of demon one encounters in the Fade is the rage demon. They are more likely they are they are much like
Perpetually boiling
kettles,
kettles.
for they exist only to vent hatred, but rarely have an object to hate. Somewhat above these are the hunger demons, who do little but eat, or attempt to eat everything they encounter, including our demons. This is rarely successful. Then there are the sloth demons. These are the first intelligent creatures and one typically finds in the Fade. They are dangerous only on those rare occasions that be they can be to induce and to get up and do harm. Desire demons are more clever and far more powerful, using all forms of bribery to induce mortals into their realms. Wealth, love, vengeance, whatever lies closest to your heart. The most powerful demons yet encountered are the pride demons, perhaps because they are among all of their kind most resemblance men. From Beyond the Veil, Spirits and Demons by enchanter
Murdramal.
Murdamo.
The Crows and Queen Madrigal. The first crow refused to speak, even when we put hot coals to the soles of his feet and peeled the skin off his face and hands with a paring knife. He opted instead of to chew through his own tongue and choke to death on the blood. The second captive repeated what we already knew. Queen Madrigal went on a hunt and did not appear for the evening's festivities. Her body was later found with 4 steel swords through the chest. I asked what he knew about one of the 4 swords being a replica of Hezarein's sword of mercy. He had not heard about that, or at least claimed as much. He later died on the rack, smiling slightly. The third crow must have realized he would not leave the dungeon alive. He seemed to hope that by angering Master Fior, he would earn himself a quick death. The crow tried our patience with pithy comments while Master Fior was trying to work. At one point, he made a remark about Fior's mother, which I shall not repeat here. I will admit to feeling admiration for his ability to retain a capacity for coherent speech and even some wit while under the extreme duress. Amid all his useless chatter, this third crow did raise an important point. His guild has a reputation to uphold. They are ruthless, efficient, and discreet. How could they maintain such notoriety if agents routinely revealed the names of employers with something as banal as torture? This gave me pause. I called for a halt to the session. After some thought, I stabbed the man through the heart and set the 4th and 5th crow captives free. If there is a confession to be extracted, it will not be done with pain. I recommend we abandon this course of action. A report by Captain Aristide, tasked with investigating the assassination of Queen Madrigal of Intiva. Please like, subscribe, and tell us what you want to hear. Tell us what you don't want to hear or see. Just put it in the comments. Keep it polite. And we will be back with more of the Codex. Thank you.
Bye.